Governance in recession, challenge of cost reduction is the focus on today's segment of the discussion on TMI Tuesday. And taking a start on this, giving it a head and a direction, I have from my extreme left the convener of Concerned Edo Citizens Forum, a political analyst and politician par excellence, Roy Oribabo. Thanks for coming, Roy.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And next to him is an educationist and also an executive director of African Emancipation Project. He is also the president of Association for Formidable Educational Development. And he's no one else but Osage Godsent Erunse. Thanks for coming, Osage.
Thank you, Phil. My pleasure again. Good morning, viewers. Thank you.
Starting with you, Roy Oribabo, we take a reflection of what the Socio-Economic Rights Accountability Project did say concerning governance in recession and emphasizing that the president should do something quickly in order to take the country out of recession. What do you make of the 2 times now we've had economic recession in 5 years?
Of course, this recession was expected. You remember the COVID-19, have been terrorizing the world, for some time now. Therefore, even the most sure and most secure economy also has some issue, to contend with because of this COVID-19. Nigeria again, what we expect us, because we were expecting that because of at the international market, the crude oil was no longer invoked in terms of the pricing. It was going down gradually. While we expect that the government of Nigeria is supposed, to be very proactive and reactive. And that was the reason why some of us believe that the Nigerian government and the leadership of this country must take responsibility for this action, despite the fact that we are aware that the COVID-19 was already navigated towards this direction, already threatening the economy across the globe. And you can see most of the countries that are serious were able to be very proactive. A critical example is China. Even COVID-19 started from China. Immediately they saw it, they were able to come out with some policy that will help them to overcome the situation. But the Nigerian government was not able to do that. And we are not surprised. This is not the first time, as you said, under 5 years, this is the second time we are falling into recession. And history also have it that in 1984, we were also in recession. If you go further, you go in the same leadership. Therefore, you cannot give what you don't have. That is what we are saying. In 2016, Nigeria was also in recession, and we have something to bring because of what was happening. Okay, another this is 2020. We are also in recession. What was expected of Nigeria is that immediately this administration came up, but they told us that they are going to diversify the economy. What's that show to me? That the Nigerian economy is not going to be a mono economy where we just have to rely on crude oil. Because I tell you, the international market, if the international community say that we are no longer interested in crude oil, definitely it's going to affect our economy because we solely rely on crude oil. And you also recall that with the present situation now in the world, like the UK, they are saying in 10 years' time, they might not need our crude oil again. Because the kind of automobiles that will be coming out, and those that will later be redefined, they might not necessarily be using our petroleum product. Therefore, what that shows to me is that we are still going to experience this in the near future, unless we have a government that is very decent. We have a government that will come up with a deliberate policy to say, now let us plan ahead for the next 10 years to come. We did not plan. We are not planning now. And that is the reason why after 2016, when we recover from that recession, why we expect the government to tighten on our shock absorber so that we'll be able to absorb more shock economically. Then the government was not able to do that. To me, it's as a result of a lack of intellectual sagacity, lack of hegemonic capacity, because you cannot give what you don't have. We saw it coming. We saw, Nigerian government cannot continue to react. Why we expect Nigerian government to always be proactive? We saw this recession coming.
Well, the government is a developing polity, and African, generally, the Africa continent has countries that are developing. Would you say that the government should be blamed for it, or because of the lockdown, because the issue about the COVID-19 lockdown, affected countries globally, economically? And shouldn't that also, shouldn't we look into the areas where the CBN is injecting policies in order to quickly make the economy recover from this recession. Isn't the direction of government in this aspect laudable? Saigi Godsend.
Anyway, thank you very much. Let me begin by saying that it's quite sad we are where we are today, and fine, you know, we quickly want to blame the pandemic for everything. You know, for me, I'm not going to toe that line. Like my co-discontent have said something very key. We are not the only country in the pandemic. We are also aware that some of the economy of some of these nations of the world are also threatened. But let me quickly remind you that recession does not just happen. There are indices before it happens. Before we had the first and the second recession within 5 years, there were already a lot of indices that our economy was already weak. And you can't take the blame away from the government. Because I have always said in different fora that if you look at most of the developed nations of the world, you discover that the private sector contributes a great deal to the healthiness or the success story of their economy. Then when you come to Nigeria, before this government, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, there have been a whole lot of talk about diversification. Before this government, we have had a whole lot of fantastic paper talk on how we can fast track and prevent such incidents.
But has it not transmitted beyond that? Because we look at the agrarian society, we look at the agricultural sector, where farmers were encouraged. You know, loans given to farmers, and also small, medium-scale enterprises. Don't you think that, again, shouldn't just be wished away?
Phil, I'll be surprised if you are scoring us good in our agricultural performance.
I'm not, but I just want you to have an attention of what the government is doing in that direction.
Let me quickly say that there are a whole lot of factors that drive the economy. There are a whole lot of factors that also drive the agricultural sector. For me, our agricultural sector have suffered a whole lot of setbacks. You're talking about grants or loans, so to speak. What of insecurity? And you know that way, both in this state and in this country, that a lot of people have abandoned their farmlands. Because when you say, oh, there's a whole lot of, just look at the news that was, you heard it again today, what happened in Borno State. You know, the several rice farmers that were killed. Currently, over time, as a result of the insecurity, that's the reason why I say there are a whole lot of indices, there are factors. Recession does not just happen. That's why I keep on saying that. When a government have one same approach to an issue and is not yielding the desired result, then there is need to make a U-turn. If you have been approaching the economy in a certain way, because you have given us so much confidence that the people you have on board are experts, they have seen the threat. In fact, before this recession, it was predicted that we might enter another recession. In fact, when I was watching the analysis in one of the stations, they said it's hyper recession. You know, this is quite a step further in a negative than the first one we experienced.
Isn't that much of being pessimistic?
What I'm trying to say, Phil, is that the government was not proactive enough.
Okay.
Now, I am not trying to wipe away the effect of the pandemic. Neither am I trying to say the economy wouldn't have been so perfect at this time. But the current state we are in was foreseen. Then the question is, what did we do ahead to forestall the situation we are currently in? That's the reason why I started by saying that there are a lot of factors that lead to weak economy. Before the recession, our economy was already weak. And one of those factors is what I want to bring into play when you mention the agricultural sector. How can you have a robust diversification in the agricultural sector when there is no insecurity in the farm? For example, statistics have it that I can tell you like 70% of farmers, I interact with farmers and I happen to venture into farming. You know, I had to run away from my farmland because of the fear of the unknown. And I'm also aware, discussing with some of my colleagues, quite a number of persons also did that because of insecurity. Now, the farming sector is already being weakened. Then you are saying there's diversification in the farming sector. How? Is it working? That's what we are talking about.
Okay.
All the tactics and the strategy for diversification that the government have put in place, they have fine paper talk. They have good plans. But are they effective? Are we seeing it? If you claim they are effective, why are things getting worse? And currently, we are only praying we do not have the Venezuela reality of a total collapse. Because if something is not done to arrest the system, I'm afraid that's what we might be going
Okay, but
to.
let's look at the aspects. Let's look at the positive side. Let's look at ways of reducing cost of governance. You agree with me that it's been the narrative, the discourse nationally on the need to cut down cost. And the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Bende Kalu, did say that critics have it that the 228 billion naira of the National Assembly's budget is laughable if they begin to say that such should be cut down, and that people who peddle this shows how unintelligent they are, because 228 billion naira is just a reflection of about 0.8% of the total budget of 13 trillion naira. Do you concur with him?
You cannot subject me to yes or no question or answer. But let me also tell you, I'm one of those who believe that even when people have argued that our government will tend the cost of running government is on the high side, some of us find it difficult to even believe. Even at the first time, I cannot conveniently tell you now. You will tell me a take up of a senator or even a House of Rep member. Therefore, I don't want to dwell on that. But I'm one of those who believe that it's not even about the cost of governance. It's about how we even manage our government and governance.
Okay.
That one, we have to take your mind back and look at projects that are being executed by government. High rate of inflation. All those projects are being inflated without any rigor. Those are the issues we need to focus on. Very just now, we heard what happened in NDDC. And you remember the revelation that was coming out from there, very massive. They were even heartbreaking. Those are the issues we should concentrate on. What does it take to tie a 1 kilometer road? What does it take to tie 2 kilometer road? These are issues we need to. It's not the allowances you are giving to somebody in government, or you are paying a civil servant. That is not my business. Because the truth of the issue is that the high level of corruption that have characterized our system of government and governance is the reason why we are now resorting to issues that are not supposed to be issued. Let us go back and revisit all the contracts that have been awarded in this country. Just go back and go and look at the cost of those projects.
So you think the figures are bloated?
We saw it in our airport, when our airport, the roadway in the airport in Abuja, you recall when a senator raised it, that they done this in the UK. How come we are spending more than that? These are the issues we need to be bothered. It's not when people just sit down because of governance, they are looking at it at a very, sorry to say, they are looking at it at a very peculiar level.
But isn't that also the function of the legislature over oversight functions? Because basically it's not just enough to talk about it, but to also bring legislations to prevent the executive from doing the other.
You are right in theory. That is the function of the legislators. In theory.
Yes, in practice, we have the appropriation bill for 2021,
in this
which is being defended.
In this part of the world,
let's use
Nigeria as a case study. We are all lamenting now that there are issues in a high level of insecurity. What is the concern of the legislators? We on the street, we are the one who is even lamenting more than those who are. If our legislators are really very effective, practically, not the theoretical aspect of legislator, then we will not get to this level we get to, because one, the central government, Nigeria, the presidency, the president and the presidency, even Nigeria president is one of the most powerful men, one of the most powerful presidents in the world, one of the most powerful presidents in the world, because you can even see the legislator, anytime they are demanding for something, you look at the method and methodology they apply to reach out. Because our president is that of a demigod. He's that of a demigod. With none of us, even the legislature doesn't have the capacity to question what happened at the level of presidency. They cannot do that.
So are you saying no thanks to presidential system of government that have made it possible?
It's not that. It is in all of the institutions we have. We have a very weak institution. That is the reason why we now have superhuman beings that are stronger than our institutions. How many resolutions have been passed by our legislature that the executive will implement? Go back, every day they pass resolution, many of them have been implemented. It's only the only way I know that the legislature, the general legislature are even there, the function, is when they are going for a continuous visit. Like we just demonstrated just now that the senior president, who led people in federal delegation to Borno to go and consult. Is that supposed to be the first from legislature? They are supposed to be the inner chamber, formulate a workable direction for the executive and say, this is what we need in this country.
Are they not doing that?
If they are doing that, would they be embarking on the project of let us go and pay a conveyance? Is that the function of the legislator? They are supposed to be in the inner chamber, coming out with performing their legislative duties. One, developing a format that will make Nigeria to work. As my friend said, how do we address this insecurity? We are talking of recession. Nigeria is just, the recession will eventually remain perpetually because farmers can no longer access their farm. And you know aware that we were told now 43 farmers, rice farmers, over 24 hours, they were massacred. And the international organization that also said that numbers Nigeria government reported is different from what the record they have. Then what will now happen to the agriculture you say you are investing on? Then is it now going to be spiritual where you pronounce it in court?
Okay, in as much that we understand that security is pivotal in terms of fighting this.
Our legislator must go back to their duty.
Yes.
The legislator must go back to what they are elected.
Let's look at how we can reposition it towards reducing cost in governance. Now, I did ask Roy Oliver about that question over the spokesperson of House of Reps, Ben DeCarlo, on the 228 billion appropriation bill for the legislature. Do you think it's out of proportion?
Let me quickly say that, you know, sometimes when we talk on this platform, people politicize everything. But one of the things I'm happy about, Phil, is that we are being faced today with the realities of the issues. If you say things are going on, you now have to match what is the reality of our experience. If you say there is security between Ramat Park to Epoma, what is the reality when I heard that about 3-4 persons have been kidnapped within the last 1 month? Now, these are the issues we are talking about, because as long as we try to be economical with the truth, we are going nowhere.
Okay, let's focus on the topic, because we are after reducing cost of governance.
The point is, I've always said, the problem we have in this country is not lack of resources, it's gross mismanagement. Even at this time, I still dare say that is not lack of resources.
Okay, but it's quite germane. It's quite germane that in recession, it's quite germane that in recession there should be a cutting down of cost in governance. What do you see in the area of?
I'm coming. That's the reason why I use the word mismanagement is a wide discourse. You know, there are a lot of subtopic underneath. You know, what are these areas of mismanagement? One of them is high cost of government, of course. Okay. For me, I'm of the opinion that, in fact, it has been said severally, and it's something that is in public view, that Nigeria runs one of the most expensive governance systems in the whole world. You know, and that's the reason why some time ago on this platform, I started discussing, probably there's a need for us to begin to have a rethink. Until we are ready to face this problem headlong, we'll continue to analyze and nothing will be changing. For example, who said we must practice the bicameral system of government? Okay, who said that until we have a bicameral system of government, you know, nothing is going to work for a nation? What's happening for countries like Sweden and some other countries that are running the unicameral system of government? And they are succeeding. And at least they may not be perfect, but things are working out. Do you know how many House of Assembly members this country have to manage? We are not just talking about the basic salaries. We are talking about other attachments, other remunerations that follow suit. In fact, it has been on public view, the amount of money, most of the chunk of the money we made, it seems as if we use it to maintain the political elite. Now, does it make sense for any nation to borrow to fund its overhead costs? Is that not madness? You are borrowing, and larger chunk of that borrowing is going into your overhead costs, not necessarily production. You know, so when you talk about high cost of governance, it's been everywhere. I mean, it's mad, the way we run governance in this country. Let me quickly say this to you. Beside corruption, which is a notable pandemic, I mean, it has been with us and it's terrible. An average politician holding a political office, by virtue of the fact that he's holding any political office, is already a rich man. I mean, without being corrupt. I'm talking about the things that are attached to that office. Is already enough to make him made for life. Now, it has not gotten to a point. That's the reason why people kill to get political offices. We have made it so juicy that everybody wants to be a governor. Everybody wants to do this. And that is not how it's going to work. Okay, so who said we have to run the bicameral system of government, for example? Because let me also inform you, I'm sure you should be aware, that there's also a bill that has been passed in some states. Ex-state governors and deputies are pensioners. They receive gratuity or salaries or what have you as pension benefit. Now, I will serve as a governor for 4 or 8 years and a deputy governor. Now you have made so much wealth legally without even being corrupt, because that office alone allows you access to a whole lot.
So you mean that should be looked into?
Come on, that should be scrapped.
Okay.
See, listen, let's also talk about the security vote. Are you aware that some states collect up to $1 billion for security vote? Hundreds of billions, they are all in the internet. Now that is
what
is
do you mean
madness.
hundreds of billions?
Hundreds of millions, sorry,
okay,
so
millions,
to speak.
sorry.
Hundreds of millions, up to $1 billion.
But
we collect this money for security vote.
Still
we are
being
still
investigated.
Secured.
That again is still being investigated, because
in the public
we can make
now.
such statements here, because that again is still being investigated.
This is not the secret information.
Let's hold on to what the topic is all about, reducing costs in governance.
So that's exactly what we are on. I'm trying to say that cost in running of our governance have to be looked into. There have to be a reduction. There are some ministries that are not necessary. There are some ministries that can be made, for example.
Okay.
Then again, the government have to create an enabling environment for the private sector. See, let me quickly say this to you. Have you observed that the rate at which people come to invest in Nigeria have declined? In fact, it has been on a continual decline over the years. Why will I, as a businessman, invest in your country when I'm not sure of the security of my company? When I will have to go through the headache of generating my own power? You know, there are things that boost up economy. There are things that cripple the economy. I've said this on a public platform. If you give Nigerians, if you solve the power issue of this nation, you'll be shocked what the Nigerian youth will turn this country into. I mean, for good. Okay. You'll be shocked at the production and the productivity. Why will I invest in your country when your taxes and your levies, beside tax, which is a civil responsibility, the levies that follow up the businesses are killing? Why will a young business thrive in an environment where you have to pay multiple levies?
Okay, you made your point. You made a point.
What about just recently? I was watching the news. I'm aware now that the advert bill have been signed into law in Edo State. What happens to the? You know, sometimes we just make policy.
Okay, I'll come back there.
Okay,
I'll come back there. Now, let's look at what you just raised. You raised the issues about reducing the ministries, departments, agencies, which is basically what the National Assembly is also looking at in terms of reducing it, and also paying a visit to what the president did approve on the implementation of the rationalization of the federal agencies, which is actually co-opting that of the Oronsaye committee to really implement it. And if that happens, it means that there will be a merging of some agencies, there will be scrapping again of some, and some will also be converted. Do you see that as the way forward, Lord?
To me, I have the opportunity to look at that Oronsaye report. Very fantastic. It's good, you know, the brain behind it very excellent. But my problem about the society we find ourselves is that we must first of all restructure ourselves. When I mean restructure, our orientation, our individual disposition. What is our belief as a people, as of today? These are the issues. What is the orientation of an average Nigerian? Even though you now say, well, we don't need legislators, we don't need any other, only one man will be our president. Let him. What happened to the orientation? And that is the reason why things are not working in this country, because all of us, we are getting of it. We see ourselves, any opportunity given to anybody now, it's an opportunity for him to enrich himself. Is it the traditional circle you will go to? Is it the religious circle you will go to? When you look at all those things, where is safe? With this kind of mindset, no matter how we reduce, how we want to restructure the country by way of cutting down some parasitors and ministries, that will not serve as a panacea. Right. But what we serve as a panacea is that we must believe in ourselves. One, that we can work, all of us can work together for the interest of this country without undermining the integrity of this country.
But if you say that, let's also look at the long term, the short term plan. Because for us to plan in order to take this economy of the country out of recession, you have the short term and the long term. And some believe that the short term plan could also bring about that reduction in terms of reducing the agencies.
I told you just now when I was doing my foundation that I have no problem with that.
Okay.
You know, we can cause governance of that. I have no problem with that. But you also agree with me that even in China, you saw it there that the China Prime Minister, where their legislature will call that, they made him a life president. Are you not bothered about that? The people are happy. They are rejoicing. Do you know why? They have strong institutions that will make sure that that man, even if he's there for another 100 years, he will not be able to take the faith home. These are the institutions we'll be looking for. How do we strengthen our institution? You saw what happened in the U.S. Where my very good brother, I believe on, Donald Trump. You see the way Amanda here have been trying to undermine and underrate the integrity of the electoral process in U.S. And you can see how institutions are coming to say, this is our country. Let the institutions are working. These are the issues. I have a man who believes that let our institutions work for us. Because this is where by the time you are now saying you concern everything with double side and one strong man is sitting there, he will keep on appropriating these resources to himself, to the detriment of you and I. We must look at this foundation. Now you are talking about how do we come out, how do we immediately come out of recession? One of the first things we have to do is that one, how do we guarantee lives and property? How do we make sure that the farmers who are going to farm are safe? How do we make sure that the petty trader who is going to the market, they are safe? How do we make sure that you that is going to the school, you are safe? These are the issues that will make us to run, will be able to overcome. It's not about the monetary policy you are saying. Now, the only reason that is available for us now, the only solution is agriculture. And now you can see the direct attack on agriculture now.
There are alternatives coming up, just like there are other alternatives coming up. Because there is also the need, some experts have said that there is need for an enabling environment to be created to provide a private sector-driven infrastructure development.
That is the insecurity issue we are still talking about. For people to invest, you must be very sure. I left my house this morning now. The reason why I was able to find is because I was not attacked on the way. If I was attacked, this man was attacked, you will not be able to have a successful program today because you have already programmed us. When you look at that, how do we make this society to be conducive for any investor to invest? With kind of report that is coming out from Nigeria now in terms of insecurity, my brother. No foreign investor will want to come here. No foreign investor. A situation where people, you just go to farm and just under 2 hours, you finish 43 lives, and nobody will be arrested. The only thing you see is that the federal delegation, they condemn it.
Okay.
Have you seen where a country, a society is being run in such a way we are running it? We are used to condemning a situation without formulating a workable direction. That we just say, let's put an end to this level of killing that is going on. And you see whether our economy will not go. It is because the agricultural sector was very superb, was very supersonic, and it was also operated at that supreme level where people were believing in agriculture. Now, can you believe in agriculture? You cannot even access it. Let me just shock you now. Even those who within Benin here, if you are to move from upper airport road now,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. People cannot go to farm there.
Okay, I'll come back to you. In case you're just joining us, it's TMI Tuesday, and it is on governance in recession, the challenge of cost reduction. I've been discussing with Roy Oribabo, convener of the Citizens Forum, Concerned Edo Citizens Forum, and of course also with Osage Godsend, who is an educationist, president of AFED. This question goes to you, Osage Godsend. Let's look at the areas of taxation. Let's look at the area of really the government providing an enabling environment. And Edo State, for instance, the need to cut down costs and also to increase security. What's your take?
Let me quickly say this. I'm happy about that question. See, it is the people that drives the economy. Not the government, the work of the government is not necessarily to run the economy, but to consistently and constantly review the public policies that will enable, startup and foreign investors to come in and embrace the system and do business. That is, the business of governance is not to create jobs. It's not even to focus on doing a whole lot of infrastructure. It's to partner with private sector for these things to go on. That's the reason why, if you look at foreign nations, developed countries, you discover that 70–80% of their economy is run by the private sectors. That's the reason why, okay, let's take that. Be that as it may, you now look at post-COVID era. What have been done for the businessmen and women to ensure that they survived in business? What has the government done? It is not about saying there is a palliative money to throw up and down. For me, those things are not the real issues. The real issue is there are businessmen, both locally and international businessmen, that can solve this whole issue of lack of job, unemployment. There are people that went into bank loan and the pandemic came on. And as we speak, they are struggling to survive. The bank is not giving a damn. They are squeezing life after them and telling them I must get my money. I know of 2 persons that have died because of that. Because of that harassment. Now,
what makes you think it's because of that?
No, come on now.
Did you conduct an autopsy?
I am, of course, I'm at home with my people. When somebody is being tensioned every night and day on death, you are having cause, and at the end of the day, they say he died of high blood pressure. So what do you read?
I think that's what is being speculated. That's what is being speculated.
Anyway,
so we can
let me quickly say that I'm only trying to say that the government should empower the people that drives the economy, and this has to do with these business people. Okay, for example, let's come to court in taxations. At this time, the government is supposed to be looking at how to reduce taxations for these businessmen and women, because how can you be asking? I was shocked. I have a school. I was shocked when I was called from tax office that I still have to pay tax. I said, how can you be asking me to pay tax when I've been home for 7-8 months? You know, they say my staff should bring tax. Tax for what now? They have been home. Now, these are the policies that are hostile. These are issues, like I was talking about the news that was making news from a few days back. Although I'm here to study that policy document, you know, that was passed into law, the advert bill.
Okay, so you said you are here to study.
Now,
so let's get on it.
I've had the feel of it. I've had the feel of it.
Because
I want to talk
because I don't have the right panelists for that.
Listen, I've had a feel of it. That's why I can talk about it. I've had someone that came to my business premises and said I have to pay for my signboard. I'm talking about some few years back, and I raised an alarm and said, you know, and I raised some arguments, and he said, don't worry, very soon we'll pass it into law, and you'll see what will happen to you then. Do you know how many levies we pay? Now it's no longer multiple taxation, it's now multiple levies.
So you appeal?
The local government, what I'm saying is that for the economy to have a reboost, the private sector, both local businessmen and international businessmen or foreign investors, they have to be an enabling platform. If I am a foreign investor, I'm looking at what is the assurance that my company will be safe in your country. Why will I do business in your country when I'm not even sure? A lot of foreign diplomats have been kidnapped in this country. And you know my worries. This same kidnapping issue takes place in the same spots. And it continues to repeat itself again and again. You must start asking yourself some very funny questions.
Okay,
let me.
I'll come back to you to address the issue. Like in Edo State, for instance, how do we encourage all of this in terms of reducing costs?
The issue is just about tax in Edo State. It's not true. I can conveniently tell you, records are there that the Edo State government, I'm not the mouthpiece of the Edo State government, because I'm a taxpayer. I'm aware that the Edo State government, because of the COVID, there was some incentive they gave. Nobody in Edo State will tell you that he paid 100% tax. It's a lie from the pit of hell.
I didn't say that.
Therefore, where the government is doing well, we must say it. In as much that we know that Nigerian government is not doing well, but in Edo State, in terms of tax remuneration, Edo State government was able to say because of COVID, enjoy this percentage. I'm aware.
And it's still on.
Yes, I'm speaking for some figures. For last year and this year, Edo State government have been very fantastic on that. And the issue of when people tell you about reducing cost of governance, I want us not to be interested in the personnel in government, because there's no money.
No, because that's where minds are going. That's where minds are going. You have to have a lean cabinet. Your personal assistance should be reduced. That's where costs can also be.
Let me shock you. The reason why when this present administrator came about, the president Muhammadu Buhari, you know, for the first 6 months, there was no minister, there was no government functionary. That's the reason why I told people that this first 6 months, the President Buhari wasted. I said we are going to pay for it.
We are going to have a negative impact of it.
That was the reason why we quickly ran into a recession. You recall?
That was the reason. It was a speculated reason.
I think that is it. I have an authority that I have to tell you, you cannot wait for 6 months in a 4-year tenure and you expect to get the same result. It's not possible. That is the reason why when people are saying, cut government, it's not about the personnel. We must look at the modus operandi of government. One, Contract inflation is our problem. It is not the salary people are taking home. It is contract inflation. Because if you hear the trillions of naira, they want to tie road, they want to do railway to Niger. Go and look at the money involved. These are the issues you need to be bothered about. It's not. I don't know how many persons are in government that are benefiting from the system. Okay. In this part of the world, unemployment is still at its peak. Okay. As the only way government can arrest unemployment, one, it talks about electricity. Yeah. If we have a constant electricity supply in this country, people know what to do.
Okay, let's look at the educational sector also.
If we are secure, people know what to do. If our educational sector is on the same level we want, if you look at the budget for this year now, there is nothing to write about the educational sector. If as we are talking, I don't know whether ASU have been on strike for the past 8 months. Have you seen a society that works like that? Have you seen how can we develop in those kind of arrangement? Government must wake up. How do government wake up? One, you must know what to do. And that's the reason why I say the Nigerian government is the only government that operates on, they always react. It takes the government to be proactive. We saw this thing coming.
Okay, thank you.
For the past 2 years, we have been talking about that recession will grip us. And some countries were always looking for an alternative way to overcome it. But the Nigerian government was not thinking. Now we are in recession. We are in recession. Now they are not telling you that we will come out of recession. That I'm very sure. But to fast that government must do the needful. The needful is that one, the lives and properties must be protected. Okay. And that is the primary function of government.
Thank you very much for that fantastic.
Let me clear something. Yeah. I don't know the business Mr. Erurabo is into. I am still being asked tax, 20%. They said it's 20% reduction. I'm still being asked tax. When the government make a pronouncement, you know what the tax
officer is asking? But
listen,
are they conducting you right?
Of course, they're asking me.
That's what I told you.
Yes. What I'm saying is, number one, what is the realistic of that reduction? Like, for example, you're asking me to pay a payee tax for people that were at home for 7 months. Then secondly, when these tax officers come and we tell them, well, where the government have done this, they will say, produce a communique to that effect. These are the grey issues we are talking about.
Thank you. I think we're going to create a forum for that, especially.
Yes, conclusively. Let's also say that levies are still coming, multiple levies. You know, so it's not enough for the government to say they have made a pronouncement. Where is the communique? Is there the directive to follow that? Because we are the one in the business field, and I'm saying they can find that. Tax offices, they are watching. They are still harassing schools on tax, but they said there's 20% reduction. That's what they said. And I said no. I met with SSG, and what he told me was different. Then
I think there will be a forum. I think there will be a forum to address this.
These are what I face every day.
I think there will be a forum to address this.
Different from what I face.
Okay, a lot is expected. A lot is expected.
Let me, on a final note, let me quickly say that to revamp our economy is not a spiritual matter.
Of course.
Is a physical matter. No economy make progress on autopilot.
Thank you very much.
You have to have a systematic plan.
Thank you. Big thanks to Sagi Godson for your very intelligent articulation, and big thanks also Rory Babo for that very beautiful articulation. I think we'll make time out to have you once again on this platform. All right. So
thank you.
This is what we call it a wrap on the discussion segment of TMI Tuesday. It's still TMI. Don't you go away.